Welcome back. I'm talking to Carl James about filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. Now, Stanley Kubrick got an award in the late 90s, a Lifetime Achievement Award, and in that, in his sort of acceptance speech, he refers to this guy D.W. Griffiths, who the award was named after at that time.
He was a film director.
Who directed over 500 films apparently in the very early years of film, and was pioneer in various filming techniques and all that sort of stuff. But he tells this cautionary tale.
I think there's an intriguing irony in naming the Lifetime Achievement Award after D.W. Griffiths, because his career was both an inspiration and a cautionary tale. But Griffith was always ready to take tremendous risks in his films and in his business affairs. He was always ready to fly too high. And in the end, the wings of fortune proved for him, like those of Icarus, to be made of nothing more substantial than wax and feathers. And like Icarus, when he flew too close to the sun, they melted. And the man whose fame exceeded the most illustrious filmmakers of today spent the last 17 years of his life shunned by the film industry he had created. I've compared Griffith's career to the Icarus myth, but at the same time, I've never been certain whether the moral of the Icarus story should only be, as is generally accepted, don't try to fly too high, or whether it might also be thought of as forget the wax and feathers and do a better job on the wings.
There's two morals. There's two possible morals to the story. One is don't fly too close to the sun. In other words, don't rock the boat, or build better wings. If you're going to take on the elite, you're going to need good wings. Now, one thing I did look up on Griffiths was that in one of his later films, it was quite a moralistic film, exposing the effects of alcohol and the damage that alcohol can do with families and that kind of thing. So, because some people say that Kubrick had a, let's say, a good set of morals. I don't know the guy. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. And wanted to perhaps portray that in some of his films. But it's also claimed that you don't get anywhere in Hollywood unless you've got absolutely no morals.
Essentially, So and there's plenty of evidence that you see Hollywood actors and directors talking all the time about you'll only get anywhere unless you're scraping the bottom of the barrel or something. But
which brings us on to the film Eyes Wide Shut. Now, tell us about that one, Carl.
Essentially, it's a story about a problem in this relationship between Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's characters. And he goes off wandering the streets of New York at night and meets up with an old friend of him who's a musician, who's playing at this sort of like elite gathering. And he manages to get the password to get in there, and he witnesses all kinds of very, very strange stuff going on.
So it's sort of people having orgies with masks on, they don't know who each other are, and there may be children involved, I don't know, maybe sacrifices involved, or whatever it is that they do.
I mean, certainly there is a belief that at least about a few seconds of film, I mean, there's lots of claims that lots of the film has been edited and destroyed, or you will never see it again. Certainly if you look at the editing style of the film, but one is known now to have been clipped during the sort of the walkthrough of the orgy, where Tom Cruise sees like a pentagram laid out on the floor. And
but let's just spell this out if there's any viewers not quite following. What Carl is saying is that this film is used by Kubrick to try and tell the public what the elite get up to in their secret parties or in their clubs or in their initiation ceremonies that they use to then keep the secret within that elite group. And he's used this film to leak that information that he wouldn't otherwise need to do.
And it isn't just that scene either. I mean, there are so many examples in the film. I mean, certainly you can see examples of characters acting in bizarre behaviour, sort of almost like mind control. And you have this scene at the end of the film where their little girl... certainly there's a scene early in the film where with the shopkeeper where Tom Cruise gets his disguise costume to go to the ball.
Which is how he kind of gets away with it, because he's got a mask on.
The shopkeeper is effectively selling his own underage daughter to these Japanese businessmen. And there's a scene at the end of the film where Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman are talking in a shop with their little girl there, and as the film's closing, you see the little girl being led away by these two men. It's a very, very fleeting scene. And they continue to talk about what's happened with their relationship, and they don't seem to give a damn about what's going on with it. You know, so there are plenty of examples. And there's also some odd things to... no, I better not talk about that.
So then, what people have said is that Eyes Wide Shut had a whole load of others. Well, I think this has been acknowledged, that there was a whole load of material not put in that.
It certainly seems that way, yeah. I mean...
It's actually given a lot more away, but he wasn't allowed to put that in the final edit.
Yeah, yeah.
So, why doesn't Jonathan Ross ask Tom Cruise what was in the real film then, when he's on his TV show?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's because people are saying that it is very difficult to sort of find that material and know for certain.
Because Tom Cruise would know, wouldn't he?
He would know, yeah, yeah. I mean, allegedly they saw a much longer cut of the film a couple of days before. I mean, because Kubrick effectively died a few days after the first showing of it to the Warner Brothers executives and Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, and they allegedly did see a longer cut than the final release cut. So, but they've never actually said what they saw in that version and what was released. But there's allegedly an even longer version. So I mean. The biggest giveaway is his editing style, because it doesn't match. He edited all of his films meticulously. It doesn't match his style of film editing for every other film he's ever made. It's almost like somebody... I mean, people have argued that maybe he didn't finish the film properly and that somebody had to sort of edit it, tidy it up, and that was the reason why. But
yes.
Kubrick was under the... he certainly gave the impression that the film was finished. There was nothing else to be done with it. There was nothing else to be shot. So.
And tell us about his death, because it came at the end of that film. He wasn't. He was planning another film. Are you? He
was planning on making AI, artificial intelligence, which Spielberg eventually made. And that in itself is a bit of a strange one. This idea of why you would want to create artificial children who never aged. I mean, but that's another subject. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a few days after this version of the film was put out there, he died of a heart attack. His family and friends said he was in good health. You know, I mean, people can die naturally of heart attacks with anything being proper. You know, but it does make you wonder. And there's several other things as well, like the fact that the planned, and it was stuck on as well, the planned date of Eyes Wide Shut was July the 16th, 1999, which is 30 years to the day that the Apollo 11 Saturn V rockets were
so
launched.
It seems
so it kind of ties back into it. So
it seems he's continuing to... Yeah. Would he have decided that date, though, do you think?
I would imagine so, because he had extensive control over his ability. I mean, he pulled his own film, Clockwork Orange, you know, against... I don't know of any other film producer or director who's got the clout to do that from a big studio. Very, very well accredited film, making a lot of money in America, and he effectively pulled it from the UK. And
right, so let's just mention that, and we've got a few minutes at the end here, Carl. A Clockwork Orange. He spent a long time directing it and getting it meticulous like he does with all of his films, and then he pulls his own film. That tells me that he was told to pull it. You're not going to pull your own film, are you?
It was out for a little bit, but there was these stories that people were copycat crimes and things like that, and apparently it was only the police went to his door and said it's only going to be a matter of time before these people turn up at your front door and lynch you, basically, Kubrick. And, and that's the official story. So
what do you think? Let's just assume that somebody else told Kubrick that film had to be pulled or censored, or what is that film giving away about the global elite or the agenda in Clockwork Orange?
Ostensibly, I'd say it's mind control, MK Ultra, that sort of thing. Because it's the main theme of the film, it's the main thrust of the film. This idea that elite are taking people and just turn them into automatons, you know, or in this case, an aversion to crime. You know, they reprogram the character of Alex to be so repelled by the idea. I mean, he's a rapist, a murderer, and he's the central character of the film. You know, it's not exactly a wonderful role model, you know, but. And he overcomes that. He effectively breaks that programming again at the end of the film. There was a final chapter in the book that the film was based on by Anthony Burgess, which was like a hopeful character at the end, you know, where he reformed himself and lived a good life. But Kubrick chose not to put that in the film, you know. So.
And let's just mention Bill Cooper before we close, Carl. Just tell us what Bill Cooper actually said about what he thought Kubrick was representing with this monolith.
I mean, effectively, he's saying that Kubrick is using subtext and analogy to convey knowledge of sort of secret society, symbolism, and the mystery school teachings, that sort of thing. And there's almost like this sort of and Jay Widener's called it like an alchemical process. You know, you see the symbolism of the eclipses and the alignment of the planets and all that kind of thing, and it very much ties into that. The association of symbols and that to secret knowledge and all that kind of thing, and certainly there's a lot of sort of Trinity symbolism in the film, the threes and things like that, and there's just plenty of examples of multiples of 3 in the film, and 666 as well, which I mean that's a very misunderstood concept. You know, it certainly usually just gets attached to sort of Satanism and that sort of thing, but I think it's a much deeper indication of occult knowledge there and that sort of thing. So.
Okay then, Carl, so just tell viewers where they can get your book.
Yeah, it's available on my blog. There's a banner link at the top of the website, thetruthseekersguide.blogspot.com. It's also available on your website. It's available through Andrew Johnson's website as well. Check the evidence. There's a free PDF version of the book there for download as well. I am currently doing a rewrite of the book, adding some new material into it and updating a few bits and pieces and that. So that will be available shortly.
All right, then, Carl. Well, thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
We'll probably do it again sometime.
Yep. Okay.
And remember, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see. I'm Richard D. Hall. Good night.